Yo, what's good,
Uh,
guys? Welcome back. We took a little hiatus, but we back, man. How y'all
Man,
feeling?
we are. I'm gonna be honest
yeah.
with you, bro. I mean, actually, it's kind of a mix of emotions, but I'll kind of save that piece. But last night I went to the Bruno Mars concert. Have y'all seen him in
Really?
person?
I have
No, no, I
not.
haven't.
He's on my
I would love to.
list. He's on my
When
list.
I say so, I've seen Drake, I've seen Beyonce, haven't seen Taylor Swift, so I can't speak on that. Haven't seen Lady Gaga, and so I'm just thinking of all these, global kind of like pop stars, like. And I've seen Kendrick. I've seen Kendrick. Bruno Mars has all of them beat, bro. Bruno Mars has all of them beat, bro. Like, yes, 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 yes. And like, I didn't really understand his track record. I didn't know he had 16 Grammys in the bag. He's I think I was reading it this morning. So he's not the highest streamed artist, but when it comes to unique listeners, he has the most unique listeners in the world. And yeah, like I mean, the show, the production, I mean, literally, it's one of those things where like, people be like, hey, all the seats are sold out for the night. And then you get there and there's still open seats. There was not an open seat, bro. And he had that place like jumping. I mean, he literally performed for 3 straight hours. And I think that's just something like I really appreciate about like Beyonce does something similar. Like, I mean, shows
Hmm.
out, and
Yeah.
I just left feeling like, hey man, that's what an A player in that space looks like, bro. Like I see why. So y'all got to get to the
Yeah.
show, bro. Y'all got to get to the show.
Yeah. I knew he had reach because just go to any mall, go to the Cheesecake Factory, go to wherever you want, a sports game, basketball, whatever. You'll hear Bruno. You'll hear him. You'll hear it. So I knew he had reach. I didn't know he was a performer like Beyonce though, because I did see
No,
Beyonce and
bro.
you saw.
When I
Yeah,
say
I
he
didn't know
got
that.
moves, bro.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say he up there busting out Chris Brown type. Actually, he doing 80 to 90% of what Chris Brown is doing, except the flips.
I hear Chris Brown go crazy too.
Mm.
I just haven't I haven't gone to it because first of all, Chris Brown is athletic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
just
yeah.
I've just seeing him from a distance. I'm like this guy. He's been athletic his entire life, pretty much.
Yeah.
But Beyonce, I ain't gonna lie, like she records. Sorry, not records, but I was impressed by her performances because it'll just be hours and hours. You just be thinking like, how is she like? Is she going to get tired or?
Yeah. The
And just
production
yeah,
was crazy. Crazy.
Crazy, bro.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
no, that's a good shout out. Damn, I'm mad I missed him in Houston. I can always go see him somewhere else.
Now you got
Uh,
it.
but I
You
missed
got
him.
to go see him somewhere else, bro. Because like this is the other thing too is before we kind of switch it up, like I didn't realize. I mean, I just did not realize his bag went that deep. Not only in terms of like his tracks, but like when I say bro played 5 different instruments throughout the night, like while still dancing.
Wow.
Because like that is what made me put him above Beyonce and all that. Is like he went from playing the guitar to playing the freaking like saxophone to then somehow
Right.
being on the drums, and
Yeah,
it's
that's
like he's
different.
dancing throughout all of this. No breaks, no water breaks, no pauses.
he's
three
a true
hours.
musician. Then yeah,
Because
okay,
even
Yeah.
Beyonce took some breaks. Beyonce had a couple of breaks
No.
in between.
No.
Damn. Yeah, yeah,
And
he
then
different. He
and then
different.
he his band is
How
called
much
the
you think he
Hooligans.
making? How much you think he making a show? How much? What you think that bag would
10
come? It
million.
gotta be. He gotta be demanding something crazy. If you playing all them instruments and dancing for 3 hours straight,
How
you
many shows
clearly
he doing a
can
year?
request the top, right?
How many
I
shows
feel
is he
like
doing in total?
It's
that I
probably
don't know.
small. Like it's probably like a small, like let's say 50, which might be a lot. I think 50 is a lot.
Yeah, he probably do like 5-10 million a show, and then ends up being close to half, probably like half of it. I feel like he probably does half a billion, and it probably don't all go to him. Like maybe like
Yeah.
some of it goes to
Well,
He
well, well,
looped
other
in.
people, but
well, this is the interesting thing because I mean, so I literally bought tickets last minute, so we got some really good like floor seats. But when we were
damn,
walking over there by Soldier Field, they had all the trucks and stuff set up that are moving all his merch, etc. And so me just being curious, I'm like seeing the name on the side of the truck. I just look it up. And what's crazy is like most of the different components of his production all the way down to like his lighting, the costumes, the merch, the grassroots marketing is literally owned either by one of his family members or one of his like bandmates. So like the guy who's like the lead singer for like the band side of things, so like the Silk Sonic side of things, he actually owns the production company that does all the lighting for all of Bruno's concerts. And so I'm like, he's figured out how to put people in the position, which is like pretty fucking dope, bro. I didn't know he was that sophisticated.
Yeah, that's dope, man. Shout out to Bruno, man.
Yeah,
So
shout
yeah,
out to him.
All right, where we want to take it to? Before we jumped on, we was joking around. The Elon got checkmate.
what's the context? What's the context?
Rodney, you wanna break it down?
Yeah, yeah. I'll get to it. So basically, Elon sued Sam. I think he started this lawsuit maybe last year, in
No, it's 2024.
2025. Oh, 2024. So okay, that's when he first filed it.
Yeah.
And okay, so then it went through. Was it late 2024, or was it?
Yeah, it was like it was
Okay,
like
I got
November,
you.
December.
I got you. So this case has been probably just under 2 years, maybe a year and a half, and the basis of the lawsuit essentially was simply just that, hey, OpenAI has turned into a for-profit company, but originally it was a it wasn't that. And Elon put, I believe the number was 100 million, but let's just say somewhere in the
Billion,
range of,
billion.
he put a billion. There's no way, but maybe he did.
No,
But I
no,
know
he
he
put
put
it was
100 million.
no, it was 100 billion. You're talking about what he put into the company, or was it what he
Yeah,
was asking for?
originally he put 100 million originally. Well, I see what you're saying. I see what you thought. Okay, my bad. Hopefully we get this correct. But basically, I believe that he put $100 million into the company in the earlier stages when Sam and him were all coming up with this idea of OpenAI. Because essentially they were trying to basically build an AI that was for everyone, as opposed to what they saw Google doing, which was building AI, but they had all the control and all the power, etc. Fast forward to now, the verdict just came out that Elon has lost that case. And to be honest, based on the information that we see and that we're reading, it's not that OpenAI did not do the crime. They definitely changed from a nonprofit to a for-profit, as we can see with the literally $100 billion or more that has been invested into OpenAI. And on top of that, the amount of revenue that they have generated is probably close to that number as well. And it was a technicality though. And ultimately, essentially what the jury came out and said, unanimously by the way, is that because of the statute of limitations, there is nothing we can do. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. It's not that they're wrong. It's not that Elon's wrong. It seemed to me that they're saying, hey, no, you're right. And even they mentioned an appeal. Elon's lawyers mentioned an appeal. And the judge said, well, you can appeal, but this is just a fact. It's past the statute of limitations. And I find that to be pretty entertaining from my standpoint. I do believe in the rule. I believe in the law, but I believe in the law in multiple ways. What I mean by that is we do have a statute of limitations for a reason, and maybe it can be argued that that should be revisited for some reason. But I think it probably doesn't happen that often where nonprofits turn into for-profits and somebody doesn't do anything for 3 years. And maybe in this case, maybe Elon didn't know that was a possibility, or maybe he was waiting to see how things were going to play out. Either way, the verdict just came out on 5 p.m. I think it was 5 p.m., 4 p.m. Eastern. So that's the story.
Yeah.
It sounds it
What
sounds
What are your
insane
thoughts,
to
Dre?
me. It sounds insane. Like, I guess I don't understand the statute of limitation around it. Maybe I should just get more educated. Because are they saying you have 3 years from the time that you discover that they're trying to do that, or 3 years from the time that it takes place? Because OpenAI hasn't been a for-profit company for 3 years, have they? Or has it gone by that? Has it been that much time?
I think they started in 2018. the for-profit model started in 2018. So it turns out that technically, I think it started in 2018. But that might be a good point. It was Elon aware that it started off as a for-profit
Because I
before
thought this
company.
was recent conversation chatter, like not too long ago, that they were trying to do this, right? And they hadn't done it yet. But apparently, I guess this has been done since 2018. That's what they're saying.
That's what they're saying.
Hmm. That's interesting.
That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying.
That's interesting. I
I
wonder
don't
what
know if
Elon's
there's any
gonna
proof.
do.
I don't know if there's like proof. I don't know. Maybe there's proof that Elon knew this and he didn't care at the time. Maybe he didn't care in 2018. I don't know. I don't know if he knew or not.
Yeah. So I just looked it up because it's a few things. So the first thing is there's the claim of Elon was aware because of the email chain in like Greg Brockman's journals showing they had previously had discussions around OpenAI becoming a for-profit, and specifically Elon wanting to have control over OpenAI or have the company acquired by Tesla to be able to enable that change. So that was the first thing. The second thing was OpenAI went from nonprofit, not to a fully for profit, S Corp, C Corp, whatever, but more to that capped profit structure that they worked out with Microsoft after they invested that first $1 billion. The conversations you're talking about, Dre, is them completely converting to a public benefit corporation and then having no profit cap at all, which, basically allows them to operate like any for-profit company today. So that's kind of the evolution of that. But I would say that email chain, and then the fact that they had the cap profit agreement with Microsoft, they're claiming that's when this actually started, and he probably should have sued then.
Do you think Elon did this? Okay, let's assume he knew all of this, right? He obviously knew. Elon's a very smart man. We all know that. What do you think his purpose was then for pursuing this, knowing that the statute? Because I'm sure his legal team told him that, right?
That's what I was curious about. I'm like, bro, this man is paying him crazy ass dough. There's no way you can tell me that he wasn't aware of this. So there has to be something that we're not seeing.
I
So
think he. I think. I think I'm seeing it. I think he wants people to not trust Sam. I think he doesn't want people to. I think he doesn't want people to. I don't think he wants people to trust Sam. I think he feels that he was betrayed by Sam, and maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. It does kind of seem a bit odd when you look at the text messages that he did want to turn to a for-profit, as shown by like wanting Tesla to bringing it into Tesla and stuff like that. But I think that he definitely just wanted Sam to look untrustworthy. I think he wanted some of the stuff in the case to come out. And then I also think that he wanted it, he's competitive. So I think he saw that as a way to potentially slow Sam down or distract him because he's threatened by the momentum. I think if Elon felt that Tesla or SpaceX AI had enough momentum, I don't think he would even care. I just don't think he would care. I think if SpaceX AI or any company that he had just as powerful AI, I don't think he would care. I don't think he is on the principle as much as he would like us to believe.
I mean, just to build on top of that, I mean, that's a really good point around, taking a stab at damaging the public perception of Sam. There was a really good article that came out recently from the New Yorker. Did y'all see it? I'll have to send it, but it's called Sam Altman May Control Our Future. Can he be trusted? And
So
so it
that,
came,
yeah, I did see that.
yeah. And I feel like, recently on Twitter and just kind of like, even on like YouTube, I've been seeing a lot more people like discuss kind of this article and in relation to like some of the things they even found related to like Sam's character. And so like what does that do during this period of time where you have OpenAI, they're facing intense competition from Anthropic, right? The whole narrative is like they're going from being in first place to second place. Then that's on the back of losing their biggest partner in like Microsoft, right? Then that's also on the back of them preparing for like this IPO, and this narrative being that like that might even be difficult because they may not be worth that valuation because they're missing like growth targets and things of that nature. I just feel like the last quarter compared to like, Q4, there's been such a shift in the narrative around OpenAI. This just kind of like, if it was about damaging Sam's, perception as like a leader of this type of company, this kind of just like adds on top of that. But yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, you're right about that transition of the narrative shift because I think last year, or I mean, we've been talking about OpenAI since, I mean, since the beginning, right? Since Chat GPT, since we started the pod, I mean, we were on Chat GPT, and you're right. At that time, Sam was definitely looked at a little bit differently than he is now. I guess the question I would ask is I think Sam is often judged, but I think it's without context because if you were running the most consequential and important company, or it seems that way, an important company that started a tectonic shift that we've never seen in human mankind, where there has been an exorbitant amount of capital that we've never seen in human mankind, resources, attention, everything. I mean, how would you move? I feel like there's a certain way you kind of have to behave when you're in that position because you automatically are a target. I don't think OpenAI could have accurately predicted what ChatGPT has done. I think it exceeded every metric, internal metric, every possible benchmark that they initially thought. Now, of course, they've caught up to like being able to have those predictions. But I'm sure if you go back and I mean, they even talk about it. Where Chat GPT is today, they didn't think it would be there. None of us thought about it. We all thought it would be dead. Brylan, you even said it on some of the previous pods. We didn't think it'd be here, but we're here now. And so when you are propelled into that position, I mean, I think you got to move a certain way. So I'm not saying that he's right for how he's moving or he's wrong for how he's moving, but I do think the judgment comes without context. And I think when you are in that position, given all the parameters that I mentioned, I mean, one, it's not surprising that you'll have critics in the arena, but two, I mean, you're gonna make some you're gonna trip a little bit, right? Going up the ladder. I mean, especially when you're being pushed from behind. I mean, that's kind of just what it is. There's only a few people in the world who've ever been in that position, if anybody, to be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah. I think Sam has lost control. Probably. I think he's lost control. But I think that was
What do you mean
inevitable
lose
for
by
whoever
control?
uh, of the whole category. I think when him and Elon and the early guys, Kaparthi and all those guys, Ilya, etc. AI was important as it has always been in computer science as a concept, and even it had a little bit more relevancy because of DeepMind. But as Dre mentioned, I don't think that anybody could have anticipated, especially the Chat GPT moment. That's a very not just company defining, but like world defining moment. And I think that the momentum that he has built, that the company has built, even if Sam like just stopped working for a month straight, 2 months straight, 3 months straight, it's not going nothing's gonna stop. Like nothing is going to stop. So this is not as in to frame it as Sam controls the future would be it's just not accurate. It's just a red herring. Honestly, it's a distraction. He's not going to control the future. There's going to be so this is a huge change to everything. Behaviors are going to change. The way people think is going to change. There's all these new infrastructures that are being built. We'll talk about that at some point, maybe at the end of the podcast, maybe at the middle. I don't know. But Sam is not in control of AI. And I think he might be the scapegoat because everybody wants to be the good guy in this really, really fucked up race. There's going to be a lot of change and there's going to be a lot that happens. And it's nice to have one guy you can say who's not trustworthy and everybody else is operating in best faith, but they're all seemingly teaming up against like it's a little bit weird, right? Speaking of that, we don't have to transition just yet, but that does remind me of a big artist that we're going to talk about soon. Everybody ganged up on him. And is he a bad guy? I don't know. We don't know. I mean, he has done some bad things, but in his position, I mean, he's also had bad things done to him. So I'm just saying that
To be honest,
sometimes,
I ain't never heard it framed that way, but that's a great way to frame it.
sometimes it's just not what it appears to be. It, because maybe we can't see. Maybe from the vantage point they're at, it's hard to see it. It's like we can't. It's like from that vantage point. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah, I think you mentioned something important, bro. Sam may not control the future of AI, but he certainly will have a significant influence.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I I think I mean, that's just again, it's an incredible position to be in, and not many people anticipate it. I do wonder, though, as an alternative way of thinking about it, is what would it look like? What would the space look like if the original team of OpenAI had just stayed together and he and Elon had stayed together? If there was no Anthropic, because Dario was over at OpenAI as well, correct?
Yeah, he was early
Right.
days.
So I just imagine, like, I mean, you got all these guys. Eventually, of course, they're gonna go in their separate ways. You got a lot of egos in the room because you got a lot of highly intelligent people
Yeah, for sure.
who are clearly intelligent, right? So I just wondered an alternative way of thinking, like, what would the space look like if those guys had just stayed together? Like, it would
Whoa,
just be
whoa, whoa,
Google
whoa.
and them, basically, right?
No, this is the
It would be
thing. This
Google. Yeah.
No, it would just be Google. Like if you haven't read Timmis's new book that recently come out, it's crazy how much of this all just comes back to DeepMind. Like Ilya was at DeepMind, Dario was at DeepMind. Literally all the early
So
employees
Dario
of
can't
Open.
be trusted. Ilya can't be trusted. They took
That's
Deep
crazy.
Mind secrets.
You hear
They took
what?
Deep Mind
That's crazy.
secrets.
He
They did.
gonna find a way to spin it. He
Ilya.
gonna find a way to
Ilya.
spin it. He gonna find a way to spin it, man.
Is that a spin? Hold on. Is that not the truth though? You just said that though, bro. Right?
This is the
You
thing.
said it all started
We've
at Deep
all,
Mind. You said it all started at Deep
but
Mind,
we've
right?
all worked at companies and have taken
That
institutional
don't make it
knowledge
right.
with us
That
because
don't
it's in
make it
mind.
right. That don't make it right.
What you mean?
Yeah,
What you mean?
that's a hard thing to challenge, but I get you. I get you. But yeah. So, okay, I didn't know it all. Okay, it all originated at DeepMind. They go off, they start OpenAI, they fuss and fight, and now they're going off building
Yeah.
competitive forces, and they're all doing it differently. I would argue, even though Elon doesn't have a frontier model, I mean, what he's doing in terms of like renting his compute capacity to some of these other companies like Anthropic, like Cursor, will create, I mean, significant headways for XAI. I mean, that's going to give them capital and cash to make further investments without necessarily having to raise at the same crazy valuations as not even the valuations, at the dilution, let's just say, as OpenAI.
Can I
So
pose a question? Can I just pose one question? Why do we not? I mean, Sam does, but why do we not question why Elon feels that he's the best person to be in control of all these things? So, for example, we might say Sam might control slash influence a lot of AI, right? But it seems to me that Elon's in control of some very, very large technologies that are already starting to increase in extreme relevance and seemingly will increase in much, much bigger relevance. For example, space flight. For example, space data centers. For example, robotics. For example, autopilot and robo taxis. It would seem to me that why does Elon and why does he feel that he's the most trustworthy person in the room? I just wonder that. Would you guys ever wonder that, or why does he feel that? I mean, maybe every man feels like that. Every man feels like, well, I need to be in control. I'm the most.
I actually get that feeling from Elon because I've heard him even say before, like even in the early days of Tesla, like his whole thought process was like, if Tesla gets disrupted, that's actually a good thing for the industry because that means that there's somebody else out there who figures out electric cars, which was his whole premise, right? Now, whether he really believes that or not, I'm just taking him at his word. I don't know how the man truly believes. Nobody knows how he actually believes, but that's what he said. So I've never gotten a sense from Elon that he felt the need to have control, at least in terms of AI. His whole thing was that Google's going to have control. And do we want to live in that reality? Like, so to me, I've always looked at Elon as taking on challenges that really the question is, well, why is nobody else doing it? Not necessarily to control it, but because like, well, nobody else is really trying to execute at a high quality, proficient level at space data centers because nobody else has built the reusable rockets. Nobody else wanted to put their money into doing that, right? Nobody else wanted to save an electric car company when it wasn't cool. Like, so I've always felt like Elon is going after these spaces where really, I don't necessarily think it's about control. It may have happened to be that in the end because he has happened to build the best systems, best product, best processes around it. So yes, the end result of that is market control and market sharing control. But I don't necessarily think he started off like that. I think it was more so, well, nobody else is doing it this way. And because of that, I'm gonna do it, right? Like he didn't try to build Amazon because there was already somebody doing it better. You know what I'm saying? Like, but all the categories that he's in, I can't think of anybody else who's at that level that's better than what they're doing. So he has no choice
Maybe.
but to control it.
Okay, that makes sense. I do think that he start. So one, I think that people can start off with a strong genuine intent and a deliberate genuine intent. I believe that maybe even the majority of the time, people start off with a good genuine intent when you really look at people's actions and behaviors. But it's just a little bit hard to believe that in the case with AI, considering the fact that the text messages show that Elon was not purely just focused on OpenAI being nonprofit. He specifically said that he wanted OpenAI to transition to a for-profit structure, but tied to Tesla for control, which to me, just from my view, and there's room for different interpretations, but from my view, and it's seemingly from a few others, is that okay? Yeah, we think it should be for profit, but only if Tesla controls it. And maybe he had a bad day of sleep that day. Maybe he's not a bad guy. Maybe he just had a bad day of sleep, and the wording was a little bit in hindsight. Maybe he's like, oh, maybe I didn't. That wording wasn't right, or maybe that. But when you go from saying okay, it's not, and then when they say they don't want to have Tesla to have control of it, they're concerned about that, then you pull back support. That's using money to control people. And I think Elon, if you pay close attention enough, sometimes Elon, as maybe most of us would do, with that amount of leverage and money, I think Elon uses money as a tool for leverage and control. That's just I'm not saying he's a bad guy. He wouldn't be the
Well,
first
let me
guy to
ask you
ever do
this.
that.
Let me ask you this. Did Sam not give up some sense of control when they made that same deal with Microsoft? We all know that when you build in a company, you're going to give up control. You're not going to build a company and not give up control. And you're certainly not going to build a company of any scale and magnitude and any value and not give up no control. So that's just the nature, like that's the nature of playing the game. So it's like, hey, if you're gonna give up control to somebody, well then shit, I got other interests that obviously benefit me and benefit other people. So I'm gonna plug that because if it's not me, then again, who else? Right? And what did they go do? They said, no, fuck you, and they went straight to Microsoft, right? And made that deal. And because they made that deal, they did give up some control over that. Right. And they also made some other deals. So yeah, I get your point about Elon seeking that. But I think too is like, again, if you're gonna give up control to somebody, like, and I'm helping you start this, see this, plugging you, everything, like, come on, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. Like, I plug you, you plug me.
Yeah, and I
That's
I think
fair.
the other thing that I
That's
would,
fair. That's fair.
yeah,
It's
I think
still a piece that I would.
say too.
I get the game. Go ahead,
So
Ron.
where I might push back is like, yeah, two fronts. I think the first one is if you think about, yeah, just Google versus Elon, going back to like the origin of like why was OpenAI even started in the first place, right? The nature of how they take bets and like handle risk are totally different, right? Where I think we've seen the history of Google being very experimental and they have a whole graveyard of things that have not worked out. There is no graveyard of things that have not worked out for Elon, right? And so because of that, I do think like that just lends itself to, I don't think that lends itself to someone who's like vying for control, in my opinion. I think the other thing too is like, say, for example, I actually think Elon had the foresight at a pivotal time to understand the scaling laws before the rest of the world did, right? And the reason why I'm saying that is because, yeah, that the part of the reason why they even started having the conversations around Tesla wanting to acquire, and that's the exact wordage, is acquire OpenAI, is because Tesla at that time was already starting to, accumulate all these, chips. I think they already had plans for like their Dojo computer or whatever. And so what comes to mind for me is imagine today if NVIDIA wanted to go buy a model company, and let's say the model company is one of these, $1 billion. Let's say it's Ilya's, model company. We know that the backing, we know the pedigree of Ilya, but you don't think Jensen gonna want control? And it's because he controls the most valuable resource. And I think that's kind of how I view this OpenAI versus Tesla. If OpenAI would have merged with Tesla, yes, they would have had a great team. Yes, they would have produced great models, but none of that would have mattered if they wouldn't have been able to have the compute, which is what Microsoft brought them, which was the compute. And so I don't think control is what he's really vying for. I do think the man has gotten extremely lucky to be in positions where everything is just intersecting. Like, I don't know. I don't know if you can really engineer that versus like in hindsight, it looks engineered.
That ain't luck. That ain't luck. I'll give him that. That ain't luck.
Nothing is 100% guaranteed.
His first win with X.com and PayPal, that was luck. That was luck. X and PayPal, that was luck. But after that, it was everything after that was not luck. And I do think you guys are underestimating Elon's need for control. I think you guys are saying he has a reasonable need for control, as everybody does have some level of need for control.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so I can get me, but I just don't want it to be lost on people that Elon need a little control as well, and he believes he's the best one. He believes he's the best one, and I wonder about that. I just wonder about that. You know, why he feels like he's the best one.
Satya feel the same way. If you ask Satya, he'll tell you the same thing. You know, they all believe that.
Right. And so Sam also, just like a country, he wanted the right to self-determination. And I think he knew he was smarter than Satya. I think he knew Satya was a bit arrogant. I remember a couple of years ago watching Satya talk. The way he talked was like, even if OpenAI got to AGI, we still own all this.
Yeah.
We own all this shit. So what they gonna
do?
like
little bro. It was like little bro. Like, hey, you always gonna be right here. Right. That's how he was talking to him, for real.
Yes. So I think Sam knew, and what I see from Sam is he just knows what's going on in the room. Even when I saw the text with the old CTO, I think Mira and whatnot, Murati, I think Mira Murati, I believe is her name, and just some of the other people. Like when I seen the text messages, I'm like, I was just like, Sam he's just aware of he has a good way of knowing what people's intentions are and what they're going to do, and essentially just thinking faster, just outmaneuvering and just thinking faster. The way his brain works, and I think that's one of the reasons why he's able to create good deals and get leverage. He's just I don't know what it is. He has that. Whatever that is, he has that. Now, Elon has incredible engineering skills, which allowed him to build what Brylan said, which is this basically this vision of the world through an engineer's mind. And that's why it seems so coherent, in my opinion, because he's pretty much saying, okay, what do we need? We need cars. We need robotics. We need space infrastructure. He's essentially saying, let's rebuild at least America. So
the only mistake I think Elon has made, I mean, to be determined, I think the mistake he made is not using LiDAR in self-driving cars.
I think so too.
I think that was a brutal mistake. I think that's a moment where he kind of, unless he had something that was fundamentally better, because I think just using vision and currently the way they're doing it, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
That's my opinion too. That's my opinion too. But everybody don't believe in that. But that's my opinion.
And I'm not only saying that because I've been driving a Tesla lately. My father-in-law has one. He has the Model Y. He left it at our house when they go to Trinidad. They have a second house there, so they've been gone for like a month. So it's been at my crib. Obviously, with gas prices where they are, I'm taking that. I'm driving that. Like when I'm not traveling. So I'm back in Detroit right now. So when I'm back home, I'm driving that, and it has some of the self-driving things. And like when it's raining, it's no good.
Really?
Good. Like when it's really pouring down raining, or like if it's really foggy, or like I don't know. It's just so dependent on the weather conditions. Thankfully, we live in Houston, so we don't have to deal with snow. So I think you get a lot more out of it than you would maybe if you were here in Michigan, or I don't know how the winters are in Chicago. But I don't know. That's just my thing. I don't know. Maybe Elon is right in the long run, but I see Waymos everywhere, and I'm like, bro, distribution is everything.
So I don't want to.
When it's rightly done.
I don't want to spend too long on this, but this is an engineering thing, and as someone who's an engineer, I've talked to people about this, and I've argued, I've debated. It's good to hear that you kind of have. I don't know where you started, but it's good to hear that where you're at right now, what side you're on with this, because my whole thing was this. Maybe there is a vision breakthrough at some point if there's enough rate of improvement where vision can take in more raw data than we can imagine, than what's visible to the eye, maybe. But as Dre just mentioned, it's the redundancy factor. And I think what people were worried about was which source of truth do you depend on if multiple different sources are saying something else. So if LiDAR is saying this and camera saying this, it creates this confusion. And then another thing I would say, I think Elon. There's two last things I'll say on this, and I know we want to switch, but Elon, I believe, just wanted to double down. Elon has this stubborn mentality of I'm right, I thought it through, double down. And then the last thing I'll say is he wanted it to look good. And he couldn't see a way for it to look good and then also be affordable as well. And so he pushed the team. He basically said, look, I know this shit ain't possible, but y'all gonna make it. And y'all gonna make it look good. And he has this habit of doing that. And teams end up creating magic.
Yeah.
Except in this case, I think it's gonna cost them. And I think Waymo's big thing is going to be safety.
Yep. Yeah. So where I might push back on this before we switch topics is, it was on a No Priors podcast that Andre Karpathy, who used to run their AI team, says they actually do use LiDAR, but it's only during training. It's not in production. Yeah. But they're able, the way they train their vision models, they train it, they're trained differently than the vision models of like today, just because that data source initially is kind of like different. I think the other thing where I might push back is, recently when I was in Atlanta, because I've taken Waymos, that's all I get nowadays. And so I was asking people like, hey, how do you feel like taking these Waymos? So many people don't want to take them. And they have ill feelings towards them, very similar to like data centers. And so when I hear like the case, like that, when I think about what camera most likely won't work for is those edge cases where resiliency is definitely needed. If one data source is like down, my thing is like, will it even matter? Because say, for example, if it's raining, yes, Waymo may work, but do people even want to trust a Waymo to drive enough in the rain? Right?
Not yet.
And so to me, it's like, it's not even going to matter, because when people are using self-driving, I don't think it's really going to be in those edge case type of moments.
It's going to matter. You know what?
I think you're saying that because it's early right now, bro. In 10 years from now, you're not going to think about the safety of getting into a Waymo when it's raining. You know why? Because it is done it 30 billion times. So you're thinking about it now because we are at the beginning stages of deployment. So of course, I agree with you. There's those edge cases that haven't quite been ironed out. So there's apprehension, totally. But we're talking 10 years from now. So all I'm saying is that, similar to Rodney, unless there's an engineering breakthrough in vision, like I just don't see how this current implementation is better 10 years from now than what LiDAR is going to be able to do 10 years from now when the resistance from the people isn't there. Because it's there right now because they're just now seeing it. But when you open your app and Waymo is 70% cheaper than Uber, trust me, that little hesitation you got is going to go down a little bit because you're going to see the costs.
They're taking...
And safety.
Yes. And they are taking a hit on safety to look good. As you mentioned, Brylan, they have cameras and LiDAR during training, but in production, they're just on vision. So in other words, they want the cars to be cheaper, and they want them to look better. While Waymo is saying, hey, look, yeah, this looks a little goofy. This looks a little goofy. This looks weird. You're going to look a little weird in this. They're owning that. But look, it's going to be safe. It's going to be quick. Well, not quick. I think they're kind of slow. But it's going to be safe. It's going to be safe. And people are going to... I laugh at all this AI stuff that people are not, like, adopting. Like, I laugh at it because I understand the adoption curve. But I laugh at it because I hear this with every single AI vertical. I mean, look. I hear it with ChatGPT. Hey, don't put in this. Don't put in that. I hear Don't put in your don't use ChatGPT Health. Don't use Claude Health. Don't use Claude Cowork. Don't do that. Don't use Perplexity Finances. Don't connect your bank account. Don't do that. Don't do this. Don't hop in the Waymo. Don't do this. Don't do that. It's like, honestly, shut the fuck up. Literally, just shut up. This is not gonna be like every other year. What is coming is gonna be unlike anything else. And you better start moving. You better start jogging. Do a light jog, right? Just start doing a little light jog right now. Otherwise, you are literally going to be trying to destroy technology. You're going to be crying, going to the government, feeling helpless. You're going to be, on the street looking like I'm trying to help people. And I've been soft about this message for a while. I've been patient. I've been holding it in. I've been patient. I've been holding this shit in for a minute. Let's go ahead. What should we do next? Should we just go to the data
Well,
center thing, or should we go to
I
the
think
out?
so. I think the data center, because you mentioned adoption,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
people having a hard time
All
adopting
right,
to these data centers because they're
all right,
going crazy.
all right. I'll play like this. So I do have a job, so I got to make sure I don't get fired. But I'm just go ahead and just say what I'm thinking. Okay, look, I understand. So okay, let me just start it off. Data centers. There are at least 50 projects for AI data centers across the country. All these different places that you can mention. A lot of southern states too happen to be kind of targeted. For example, like Texas and Tennessee. Some in black areas, some in white areas. I think some people think that it's only going to certain types of areas. It's going from my perspective. I see it not just going to any one demographics area. Usually, it just seems to be these areas are cheaper. That's usually the common denominator, that the areas are cheaper and they have space. Essentially, I believe that Shamath first put this on my radar, but I started to see this on X where there's starting to be a infrastructure problem. And Shamath is specifically worried about that with Anthropic because they've been a little bit less aggressive on that part. But that doesn't mean that Anthropic is going to stop. But I guess the main point is that a lot of these projects have either been completely stopped or they've been halted due to community voting, due to community, gathering. And I was watching a video by a journalist. I'm sorry, I forget his name, but essentially he was interviewing somebody in one of these communities, and he said, "Look, in that particular community, AI data centers was a bipartisan issue. It was one." He said, like, out of all the political issues, this is one issue that everybody can come and agree on. That we understand that the AI data centers, but at the same time, we're not sure about the environmental impact and things of that nature, and the amount of. And then they had questions about the jobs as well. They said, "Yeah, we believe the jobs, but maybe like how can we be sure those jobs will last and how much they'll pay, et cetera, stuff like that." They're kind of skeptical. And really, what I see is this: I see a distrust of AI. That's really what it comes down to. That's really what it comes down. And then I also see that, ironically, this is the time with the most transparency on AI. I don't know about you guys, but when most of the stuff that allows your Netflix to run, that allows your Google to run, that allows your Microsoft Teams to run, when most of that stuff was built out, I don't remember people really having a say in the matter. Of course they did. We know that they had to. We know that they had to. We know that. However, what was in the air wasn't this huge distrust and negative feeling and negative tone towards AI. And I think that when you see these communities come together, I'm not saying that their concerns are not correct or anything like that, because they are uncomfortable with the speed at which case. But see, the thing that's so interesting or so intriguing is that you have two things that are happening. The speed is not coming out of nowhere. The speed is coming from the demand. And so you have two things that are happening. One, people love AI, and these companies believe that they're going to have people are going to use much more AI than they're using today. I also believe that not only people, but also individuals, but also our machines, like our cars, our factories, etc. So this is not just, oh, we're just going to come out. You have two problems. People really want this stuff, but then they also don't really want the thing that powers the stuff. And so I understand the environmental part, but when I really looked through when I started to cross-reference some of this stuff, I say a lot of these new data centers seem to be much more efficient than the old shit. Like, this is the top. They've put so much effort into, for example, one thing they do is the amount of recyclability in the water supply that they use. Yeah, they use a lot of water, but most of that water is able to be recycled over and over again through a closed loop system. So that's just one case. That's just one case of many other things. And you could tell that these teams have thought very, very hard about how to make the best AI data centers. We have tons of money. We're not going to cut corners. We're going to make, and so these things are efficient. They have the newest technology, the newest things. And in fact, I'd almost say that, and I know I'm a little long winded on this, but I'm going to say this. I would say we should probably be replacing some of the old shit. Some of the old shit is probably worse than whatever is being built. Now, some of these new areas are. I'm not saying that people shouldn't be upset or want to understand, but I think now transparency in social media and this negative tone, specifically from the Anthropic guys. It's a fucked up tone. It's a fucked up tone because it really does affect how people look at this stuff. They have people in communities looking at this like, hey, look, we should be fearing this. We should not like this. And it's not just Anthropic. Yeah, I'm just playing, but as a company that is out there, I don't think they should be feeding into that narrative because we're seeing it in real life in the communities.
I actually think that the narrative is totally fair and valid and warranted, right? Like we talk
Yeah,
about the potential displacement of AI and how it is a technology that not only goes deeply vertical, but it also goes horizontal. It also goes beyond just software into hardware, robotics, machinery. We just talked about self-driving cars, right? And so I think when you are an everyday person and you're looking at this happen and you're also seeing the headlines, I think before we started the pod, it was what company? A Coinbase. They had just laid off 14% of
yeah,
their people.
yeah,
Meta just did another round. Like all these companies are like, so when you're just a normal everyday person just going to work, you're not in tech, you're not staying tapped in. Maybe you watch the news at the end of the night and you're seeing what's happening, which, yeah, I agree. These headlines are curated, but I think some of them are, I think there's some truth there. I don't think it's all true, but I do think there is some truth there. And I think when you have guys like Dario telling you what's coming, like, I don't think that's just him feeding the narrative. I mean, where does the technology stop? Are we going to get to a point where we just say, you know what? There's no more need to innovate. There's no more need to innovate. There's no more need to automate anything. There's no more need to chase more compute. There's no more need to chase better GPUs. There's no more need than that. Of course, we're not going to say that. And as long as you have people who are like Dario, like the people at DeepMind, like the people at Google, who are intensely focused on these sectors of technology, we're going to see rapid advancement. And that unfortunately has consequences to people who are just everyday people. And so I do think that the fear or narrative from these communities, I think is real. I think is real. And this is for me as a person who's been in tech for the last decade. I think it's all valid and fair. Some of the other concerns too that people are having is like the noise pollution. Apparently, these things are so
oh,
freaking big,
they got
and
to fix
they're
that.
disrupting the noise around, and so that has ecological impact. That can impact animals. That can impact the growth of flowers. I mean, that can have a lot of impact. Just constant humming and noise. So I think there's a lot. So you're right that they have been more efficient, but it still doesn't come without consequences. And so again, I use AI every day, so I'm not the person saying let's shut these tools down. But at the same time, I can understand why people are upset. I can understand why people in these rural communities are pushing back against it. I can understand it. I really can, and I do think it's fair. I think it's fair. And unfortunately, I think this technology is going to wipe a lot of jobs away. It will create some jobs, but it's going to wipe a lot of jobs away. So that data center that's sitting next to your farm is about to wipe a couple of 100,000 jobs away.
Yeah, I
The
think
noise, they need to fix that. That's a big problem. That's a
I want to build on that point that Drake just touched on because I think it's what's making the difference between why did people not trip when the data centers were being built out for like the cloud revolution versus like the AI revolution. And I think it's because it didn't cost you anything. All it cost you was a Netflix subscription to go watch Netflix, or, you know, get you a new iPhone to hop on, you know, to the gram or whatever. Where nowadays it's not only the subscription price, but it's your freaking livelihood. Right. And so I think that's just a little bit different for people when they're thinking about like, should I even allow this into my community? I think the other thing too, that is very important is I'm forgetting exactly what it's called, but I do think one piece that folks that are overlooking is how electricity rates get set in like a regulated environment. Right. And based off of some of the research that I was doing, like obviously there's the supply and demand, you know, dynamics. There's that. But there's another piece of the equation, which is just like, I think it was, I'm forgetting I'm butchering it, but essentially it was as they grow their assets, their rates, the government gets to update their rates. And so prices naturally are going up as their assets are going up. We're building more data centers. Those assets are going up. Those costs have to be recouped, right? And so I do think it's fair for everyday people to be arguing that, because most everyday people are not seeing the benefit of AI. And I'm going to actually argue that most everyday people probably won't. Like I feel like I'm becoming more of like an AI skeptic in the short term, if I'm gonna be honest. Just because like even interacting with a lot of these like mom and pop like businesses, yes, they could use AI, but it's for task. It's not necessarily as like a whole system solution to rewrite their business. Maybe somebody could come in there and do that, but I think I'm actually like starting to value humans just a little bit more than I was probably like a year ago when I was super bullish on kind of just like AI. Maybe we get there, but I do think in like the short term, I don't think people are going to see the benefit of the AI. So if you take the cost of, you're telling me this narrative that I'm going to lose my job, but then, yes, I've tried AI, but I'm not getting no benefit. What the fuck are we doing? That's where they're left.
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, what I'm hearing is that AI is on the verge and also currently creating more problems, and not as well, it's creating benefit, but they're not addressing problems. They're not addressing problems at the speed that they need to. So, for example, one of the most obvious ones is the sound one. That's an obvious one. Another one is definitely jobs for sure. Although I would argue that it seems to me that Netflix and all these different services did steal something from us, and they stole our most valuable resource, which is time. I think we thought that we would save more time by not going to the movie theater, but then we just ended up watching more movies from home. And I think that you could extrapolate that to other things. People spend less time going out in general. Based on the social media numbers, people will spend 4 or 5 hours, 6 hours on social media. On average, they'll spend 5 hours, which is a ton of hours. I think that from my view, I think we're in a more fucked up position than we think. And to me, AI seems like the solution, meaning that it seems weird to give up our livelihoods. So I can understand that. I just have this feeling, which is not good enough for people who would be scared, but I have this belief that as the intelligence scales, that as we continue to scale the intelligence, I think the solutions will appear. Will appear either directly due to the intelligence of the AIs themselves, or through just simply through innovation and creativity. But I understand where people are coming from. I don't think that their fears are not real, and people's fears are real. Do I think that that's the right move? No, I don't think so. But I see where people are coming from. I see exactly where people are coming from. But I keep thinking, and I could be wrong. I could be naive. Time will tell. I keep thinking that I see this world where everything is easier. And what I mean by easier is you hop in the car, you don't have to drive it. You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about that. You could be a teenager. I see a world where you can get a task done, most of the task done, just by talking to a computer or talking to your phone while you're out. I mean, I just saw the Codex update where you can use Codex from your phone, and you can build while you're, just doing other things. So you could be talking to your grandma, or your mom, or your sister, or whatever, and but still be building. And I see like this world where essentially everything is easier to do, and then it gives you more time back. And it just reminds me of when I was 13 years old, where when I was younger, I used to build bots, right? And one of the core tenets of building a bot, or the core purpose of it, is to automate a task and that's repetitive. And so AI is not going to replace tasks that are not repetitive. Driving is repetitive, so therefore it can be replaced. I don't think that AI will be able to replace a lot of things. I think our focus will shift towards things that are less repetitive. And I just think that's where it's ultimately going to shift. I think it's unfolding, but I understand people are scared, and I think they see the future coming quicker than they've ever seen it come. And I understand that. I definitely understand that.
Yeah, I think the last actually, and then I'll kind of transition a little bit here because we're talking about like futures. But yeah, I think I'm just growing to be a lot more skeptical, man. Like I think the everyday person in America, and I think it shows up in like, these different sentiment surveys. Yeah, this benefit that we speak of, I don't really foresee it, right? Just
So
because
then
like
why?
I agree with you.
Sorry to interrupt.
Go
So
ahead.
then why would you bet on Anthropic? Why would you bet on OpenAI? Why would you bet on any of them? If you're like an AI
Because
skeptic, why bet on any of that? Because
because we
because you
like to make
realize
money.
they're thinking trillion. Like at this point, they're both literally thinking $1 trillion of value. So why bet
Hmm.
on any of it? If you really believe that everyday people, which I hate that
Because
term, but
you don't need everyday people to win AI. And the reality is like I think
yes you do,
you don't.
yes you do,
No, you don't.
yes you do.
No, like if we're talking about purely
LLMs,
from
maybe
no,
LLMs.
no, I'm talking about purely wanting to have a good business, meaning you got some margin. You got some margin. And you have somewhat of a moat given none all these models are pretty much the same on all these benchmarks. I don't think consumer is going to be the one that gets you there. And I think even seeing the recent pivots of OpenAI, that has kind of like proven that. And I just think right now, this may change, but right now, it's organizations. So it's groups of minds that have the largest appetite for AI because there's this profit incentive, but
Yeah,
ordinary people don't got that, bro.
I mean, we get that, but that's all technology, right? Like we sit here today with full blown supercomputers in our pocket. Like we sit here today with computers in our pocket that are more powerful than the computers that they used to send to universities that took up a whole room. So yeah, you can always argue. Like, so if you're just simply saying, "Hey, look, this is what I see today," I can't argue. You can't argue with that. I thought we were talking about the future though. Like, yeah, we see today that when I see as far as what's unfolding, and even in a short 3 year, out not even 5 year, a 3 year span, in a 3 year span, when I'm seeing even for example, a small one would be the percentage of doctors that are using AI to improve their diagnoses is going up rapidly. That's a small, direct, practical. Now you may say, okay, man, that's not consumer. Okay, I understand that, right? I understand that. But my main thing is Apple said we are going to redefine personal computing. And at the time when Steve said that, people didn't really look at computers as that personal. It was more like universities, it was more like research labs, it was more like these bigger infrastructure things, governments, militaries, etc. And he thought, this was a crazy thought. We have to remember, it was a crazy thought that a computer would be personal, especially to the level that we have it today. So I'm just saying this is not exactly the same scenario, but as they like to say, it seems like it rhymes.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
seems to
I
play,
I think
and we should.
yeah, I won't disagree with you on that, but I think I'm gonna push back on the economics, bro. I think the value someone attributes to an iPhone, the fact that you have to have financing for an iPhone tells you how much value someone is willing to place on this, that they're willing to make payments over time for something like this, right? You're not making payments over time for this $20 subscription, bro. Most people aren't even paying it. And so the economics are a lot different in terms of the value that is ultimately being created in real dollars and is ultimately being captured. And what I'm saying is, I don't foresee a future where you're going to have many consumers willing to probably pay for $200 subscriptions the way we do. They barely pay for $20 right now, which is part of the reason why that.
One of the things that they say, one of the things that these all the frontier labs have been saying is that we have much more impressive, powerful things.
But hold up.
We don't have the compute because we don't have the compute.
I want to ask you this question.
How can we judge? How can we judge?
But hold up. I'm gonna ask you this question. If that is true, and the compute comes and those, hold on. Even if he said, I'll ask him the same question. If that is true, and the compute comes, and those capabilities are like seen, what has to be true for the everyday person for that light switch to go off and say, okay, I get it now?
So that's a good question. I would say that it's undefined. I think what they're doing is a simple process. Come out with something, put it out there, see how it goes in the wild, and repeat. And because they have the distribution, if they find all they need is one killer consumer feature beyond the chat interface. They already have the chat interface. All they need is one killer feature. So maybe it's not here today. Maybe it's not here next week. Maybe it's not here next month. But we know how that iterative process works. And we know that OpenAI has the DNA of a YC company. So if I had to bet on the odds of them finding that key killer feature that makes somebody say, you know what, I need this, I would say it's pretty good odds. And I'm not saying just OpenAI. I'm just saying just anybody. It might even be, it might be anybody. But let's not, we can agree. We could definitely agree that consumers, maybe the profit is not there entirely with consumers right now. There are more people who are using it for work and for business that are more willing to pay because we have direct results in our jobs. It gives us more money in our jobs, makes our lives easier, makes our work easier, etc. People don't necessarily see how it can apply to their life just yet. But as we can see, every other week, new products are coming out. Things for health, things for coding, things for finances. It's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time.
Hold up. This is where I'm going to continue to push back. It's easy to say that it's only a matter of time when there's no money at stake here. Like, I don't think it is a matter of time, because even with these models coming out, think about it. Even with these models coming out, us going from GPT-4 to GPT-5 to Mythos or whatever, the everyday person's sentiment has not changed. It has continued to go in the same direction.
The benefit's not there. That's because the benefit's not there. Watch how people switch. If they had a strong benefit in their life, it wouldn't be the same. Like, it wouldn't be the same.
The benefit is going to be money. If we're saying their livelihoods,
right, that's a big one. If they can start making you $100 a week, $200 a week, $300 a week. I already seen the new Codex Go feature start it lost money, but it was generating, at least it was able to create a Stripe. It was able to do all these things, create a site, test it, different iterations. That was the first time, like, wait, hold on. If this keeps improving, you could see a world where people can come up with ideas. I'm talking about, like, people can come up with ideas.
Supply and demand.
Literally
supply and demand.
And then they can put it out there and work for them and do stuff for them. If people start making money from it, that probably is the killer feature. That probably is the killer feature. Because you know what? That probably is the killer feature. That probably is.
Yeah, I don't know. I just sat here and listened to y'all. I tend to lean towards you, Brylan, on that sentiment. That I don't think many people will get the benefit. In fact, I see the AI market kind of playing out similar to search to some degree.
Interesting.
Similar to the search market, where like there isn't no money in search consumer, right? That's why Google has to monetize ads, right? You got to get the money from the business because consumers are not willing to pay. So, yeah, I do see that, but I don't know. It's interesting. We'll see.
So can I ask the question? Is it when we talk about AI, are we looking at it though from all the applications of it? So, for example, like when I see a Waymo, I tend to think that that's AI, and I look at that like at least I would think that there's going to be profit with that at some point. Like I'm not just looking at the chat interface. Basically, is where I'm getting at. Like I'm saying, there are a million different ways you can apply intelligence to. If they build the infrastructure, it takes one product, one killer product that relies on AI for its basic function that provides a significant benefit to people's lives. That in itself, it's kind of like even like it's
Well. Yeah. I mean, that's a to me. I mean, yes, I would agree with you. I mean, that's like an obvious like benefactor, right? For example, if you have cancer and all of a sudden you have access to some
yes, yes,
radically new improved drug, yes. But I think I think what Brylan is saying, or at least what I'm getting from it, is on a more nuanced basis where that person who's concerned about that data center getting an ongoing benefit from this technology. No, you're right. They will benefit from, there are indirect benefits from like a medicine like we just discussed. Well, yeah, you're right. They'll get that. Right. But in terms of I think the benefit weighing the fear is where the disconnect is, right? Because yeah, you're right. They'll get that drug, but then does that outweigh the narrative around all the job loss that they're seeing, quote unquote, right?
yeah.
Or
It might be tough.
the
It might be tough.
increase in electricity that Brylan is talking about, right? Like again, if I'm paying more in electricity bills, then I mean, I don't know. I think there's just other ways where I don't see. I agree with Brylan. The everyday person, I don't think will benefit from it. I mean, again, the position can change, and again, I think that's what Brylan's saying. It's not. This isn't indefinite, but I mean, unless there's some like major breakthrough, I just everyday people, I
This.
don't think will get the benefit of it. At least in the short term. I'll put it like that.
How about
Yeah,
this?
yeah. I say short term.
How about this? We can. I think we understand each other's positions. So how about this? How about this? I need you guys to give us this amount of years when you think that potentially that the AI benefit will be so clear that it's undisputable. Because because the way I say it's like this. It's like I would agree in the short term, it's not obvious enough. Like I've seen people like use AI for school and they'll use it like back to back to back to back. But then once they're done with school, they just put it down. They don't even think about it. I'm like, that's interesting. So you looked at it as a tool that got your schoolwork done, but then you didn't like use it for anything else. And during that time when they were getting the schoolwork done, they paid for it. And that wasn't like somebody that was all into tech. They were just like, oh wait, this can help me with my school. Okay, let me pay for that. Let me get that. And that's just one example. So then I start to say, well, is there a timeline that you think that no matter what you're trying to do in life, whether it's health, relationships, finances, etc., where there'll be so many that there will be in short term, like 3, 5, or are you guys thinking way out like 15?
No, I'm gonna be honest. I like I'll say this. I'll say this with 80% confidence. The next like 2 to 3 years, yeah, I don't see things
Three
changing
years?
as much
Three?
as yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
With
don't see it in
with
3 years?
like
Okay.
everyday people,
That's
I see
fair.
that
That's
sentiment
fair.
getting worse.
That's fair.
I would
Okay,
even
3 years for you.
say, but I would even say like if we're wanting to
Don't
say
say
like
10.
10 years, no,
Don't
if
say
we're
10.
wanting to say 10 years, no. And here's why. Like if we're saying AI is going to deliver on its promise, then it's going to shift markets. And I'm not just saying like stock market or whatever. I'm saying any place where you got sellers and buyers, bro. And if that type of market structure is going to take place, we don't know what the hell that's going to look like or going to do, bro.
That's all I be trying to say, bro. That's all I'm trying to say is if it delivers on the promise. And we've been in tech enough to know that this is not going to stop. And there are really smart people and a significant amount of money behind this. It's not going to stop. So I'm going to even go out and say 10 years, bro. I think
10
10 years. 10 years, bro. And that does not mean people are not benefiting from AI. Again, I think there's levels to it, right? People will benefit, but the question is more so, will the means justify the end? Meaning, like,
Yeah.
when you see the mass shift in markets that Brylan is referring to, will that outweigh the benefit of the fact that I can use AI to build some cool app in the background while I'm talking to my friend, right? But
Or
I'm
I have
looking,
more
but I
time.
can't. but I have more time and I can't get a job or I can't actually make any money to support my family, right? Because you said like it's a crazy idea to give up your livelihood. Don't neither one of us want to give up our livelihood right now. You know what I'm saying? Like none of us would want to give up willingly. None of us would do that. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
like
yeah,
yeah. So to me, the real question is not the benefit. I agree fundamentally. Yes, people will get some benefit. Like I said, drug discovery, that's huge. We talked about that in our private chat about DeepMind and what they're doing in health and Google. Huge, 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 huge. But again, will the means justify the end? I think that's really the broader question here. And if AI delivers on its promise, as Brylan, I think that is a beautiful way to put it. If AI delivers on its promise, which I wholeheartedly believe as a person who's been in tech, like I said, 10 plus years, I believe we will do that. I just don't think we understand how the market is going to shift. And I think it's going to be a different conversation of if people are benefiting to like, whoa, what the fuck is going on? And it's a consolidation of people who are going to control that. I don't know. So I'm going to put out there 10 years. That's what I'll say.
okay, 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 okay. I understand y'all. I understand y'all.
But
10
I got
for
to run
Dre.
though.
All right, Dre. 10 for
I got to
Dre.
run, guys.
All right, see ya. Uh, brother,
But
you only got
hold on, Rodney, because
yeah,
you're always someone that's always been ahead of the curve. So like,
right.
what are you
Yeah.
seeing that we may not be seeing?
I feel like I be trying to say it. I feel like I be trying to say it, bro. Like I think that we are underestimating how smart the models will get. And because we're underestimating how smart the models will get, I think we're looking at how the speed, the pace of things and thinking with yeah, I just think the brain is not fully seeing the exponential jumps. And so what I'm thinking is the problems that are being stated today only seem like problems with our current level of intelligence. They will not seem like problems later. The problems seem like problems today because we do not have the consciousness to see the higher level. And this is typically how intelligence works. This is how intelligence has always worked. Caveman, then a little bit smarter than caveman, groups and tribes. Then a little bit more than that. Okay, state, country. Okay, a little bit more than that. We're traveling, the boat, this and that. And each time new knowledge was discovered, it created a whole jump. Now it took a while for that to spread. It took a long while for that to spread. But I would say every, at first it took a long time, maybe thousands of years, millions, or whatever. And now I think that loop of intelligence is getting quicker and more rapid because I think the internet created a situation where we dumped 20 to 30 years of just random information and we're literally sitting on a gold mine of patterns. We're sitting on a gold mine of patterns. And it's not even just the internet, just all this information that we know that's being stored in it could be health information of the whole population. It could be information about demographics and all these. It's all being stored or has been stored and recorded. And there is undoubtedly likely at least a million life-changing insights in all that information. Because we don't have the amount of compute, we cannot really process it all. We can only do so much because they have to do two things. They have to train new models, plus they have to offer models to make money so that they can survive. But imagine if they had unlimited money, which in a way they kind of operate like they do a little bit. But imagine if they had unlimited money. What you would actually like to see, if we were smart about this, we would actually like to see what is the limit of the intelligence. We would want to fund this as far as it will go. Why would we stop trying to get smarter? Why would we stop that? Why would we stop that? Because then every problem that we would have a better tool to resolve it because we have higher intelligence. It's just that simple. And that can apply to everything that you do. You can always do something more efficient. You can always do something better. There's always room for improvement. We all know that in our personal lives. And then some things can just some things that are complex. For example, I think Waymos are living proof that you could take something that's complex driving, which has a million variables on a 30-minute ride, to something that can be automated by a computer. And that is I don't think people are fully seeing where that's going to go. And I don't think they see how much it's going to leap. Now, if people block it, then of course we're not going to see the promise of AI. If we stop building data centers, then of course we're not going to see it. But we should probably overbuild. We should probably be like, oh damn, we kind of overbuilt it a little bit. We kind of overbuilt it, because then at least we know, okay, we maxed out intelligence. We maxed it out. But why would we not max that out? That don't make sense to me.
No, and I think you make a really good point, especially on like the limits and just kind of like maxing things out. Yeah, I just don't know. I think it's going to end up looking. I think it's going to look like a cave, bro. Where certain people are going to get it, and there's going to be a fuck ton of people that don't, bro. There's going to be a fuck ton of people that just don't. But I think, going back to what I was trying to say, and I think Dre articulated better than I did. We just don't know how things are going to be restructured, right? And so, like, say for example, like to kind of build on this and take it to the next topic, there was the the Coinbase CEO. They recently did some layoffs, and part of his justification for it was, the crypto industry had been in a downturn, and so that was impacting their revenue and things of that nature. But also, over the last year, he's made a few different like AI mandates, such as one was like for the engineers, if you weren't using Cursor by Saturday, you were fired. And there were engineers that did not take him seriously, and he fired them, right? But this one was more so targeting middle management, so like managers, any manager. And his whole kind of thesis there is really that, you're going to be able to do more with less. And I think right now, I think one of the ratios I saw was like a reporting structure of like 7 reports to one manager, where in the future he envisions like these AI native pods where you can have 15 or more people reporting to one person. And that one person is also like, still doing work, right? And I think even when I was thinking about that, right, like it sounds good. But what it got me thinking about was, what are the components of management, right? And so the mental model I kind of came up with for this, and I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts on this, is like, I was working back and forth with Claude on this one. And what me and my friend Claude, we're good buddies. But the way we framed it was, we came up with this equation. So management equals information, judgment times authority times care. So information is just having that context of your organization, cross-functional coordination, things of that nature. And if we're going to be honest, anyone that has managed a team, that does take up a good chunk of your time. Then there's the judgment that's obviously coming from like your experience, but it's being able to make decisions. Then there's authority, meaning like you can allocate different resources, hire, fire, and then there's care, which is more so the development, the tending piece to the folks of your team. And the reason why I broke it down like that is, I think more and more when I hear these type of narratives coming from these type of leaders, I'm falling into the camp of how Mark Andreessen kind of is seeing the AI space, where it's less of work or a job being taken over. It's more so a task, right? And so going back to this equation, right? Like when I think of it, I think AI isn't necessarily going to eat management. It may make them more efficient, but it's because we can already say this with confidence. When it comes to that information piece, going back to what you were just saying about intelligence, just today, the models are already way more powerful there. And some may even argue in terms of judgment, but where I would probably push back against judgment is because as a manager, you have all that human experience that has not been, transferred to a model yet. So I think that's going to end up, that's where I might even push back against the Coinbase CEO. But the other example I kind of like thought of was like, to simplify it for people, is like, think about the calculator, right? And so if you think about the calculator, right, like what the calculator did was very similar. It expanded the number of people who could do math. It sped up the time you could get an equation done. It expanded the type of problems that you could solve, because you no longer had to write the equation, you just had to model it. And then it changed what you actually valued, right? So instead of just, computing and writing out the solution step by step, You were more focused on what was the answer to the solution. And I'm not saying this is the case for many different use cases. So say, for example, like self-driving cars. I don't think the calculator reference makes sense into that because it's changing the system. But I think for many use cases across AI is just a point solution. And I think, especially when it comes to knowledge work, I think it's probably going to just end up eating a lot of those information kind of like retrieval tasks. So pretty much similar to like search. But I think that's kind of the mental model I would be having, not only for management, but for any of these things. Like, what are the individual tasks that makes up that job? And which ones can AI really dominate and eat up because the intelligence is already that good? And because of that, where would I spend? I even see it in my own job now, bro. Like it's crazy to just think about it in the last year, just to see how much of my role has been automated, but where all that time has allocated to is to making money activities. You know what I mean? And so I think that's what is informing my position a little bit, is I think we need to start looking at these things as like, what are the different tasks this job makes up and which ones will AI really eat up, and where will your time be reallocated because of that? Because I do think that's what I mean by structure of our time, structure of our lives, structure of our money. All of that is being shifted underneath our feet.
So check this out. This is not gonna sound right to people, but if everybody doesn't have their job, we in a good spot. If it's just you that don't got your job, you in a bad spot. I hope that makes sense. If everybody don't got a job, you in a good spot. You gonna be fine. But if it's just you that don't got a job, you in a bad spot. So when we talk about all these jobs being lost and what are people gonna do and do people really think that it's just gonna be millions of homeless people walking the streets? Is that how?
That's real.
Is that what people see? Is that what people see? What do people see exactly? There's gonna be everybody you know and love. It's just not gonna have no way to get what they need done in their life. Is that what y'all see? Is that really how it can? Is that really how things can actually go in real life? In real life, I know in our brains dang, 20 million people lost their job. Do y'all really think that? So okay, so then what? Then what? Then what? Like, come on, guys. Look, all right, come on, guys. Look, it is much worse. It was much worse to lose your job during 2008 when there still was. It was bad for a lot of people, but guess what? It was still good for a good amount of people. Now, it was bad to lose your job, especially in any other time, because it's like, dang, well, if one sector got hit, like newspapers, they got hit. So a lot of journalists, they lost their job. Did nobody really care? Nobody really cared about that. They definitely lost. A lot of them lost their jobs. Seems like a lot of them adapted. Some of them went to different fields with their skills. It depends on the individual. But if you have a situation where everybody loses their job, come on. I mean, so what? People are just going to sit back and do nothing? So what are they going to do with that extra time? The time is the most valuable resource. You get that back. If I had to guess, there will be some form of, I don't even know if it will be universal basic income, but there'll be some form of relief that will be provided from the amount of value that is being created from AI. People will find the next thing to do. Because one thing that I noticed about life is that your brain is always going to find a problem. It doesn't matter how good your life is. You're going to have 99 problems. You're going to have 99 problems. I don't care who you are. Now, I don't care how good your life is. You're going to have 99 problems. So if anybody sits here and thinks that there's going to be a situation where, essentially what I'm saying is that the problems that we're talking about with AI, they're going to get resolved. But there will be new problems. And then those problems will get resolved. And basically what I'm saying, this is the circle of life. This is literally the iteration in the cycle or the circle of life. This is literally how it goes. We see problems, and because we see the problems, we are going to address those problems. I'm more worried about the problems we don't see. I'm not really worried about the problems that we come up in our heads right now. I'm not really worried about those problems. I'm worried about problems that we don't see coming. Those are the worst problems. The problem you see coming ain't that bad. That ain't
The
that
blind
bad.
spots.
Yeah, exactly. That I can be we were a little bit worried about that, but the problem that we see coming, that ain't that bad. And then also going back to my point about you made a good point about the calculator. And what I'll say is AI can be applied to every problem. And I think that's the unique. I think that's the unique. That's what's unique about it. It can be applied to every problem. Now, it may not solve every problem because at the end of the day, there are certain problems that we have to solve still in real life. But it can be applied to every problem as far as theoretically and conceptually. And some problems, like the driving problem, it can be applied to that. The flying problem, at some point, it can be applied to that. There are some problems that it can be applied to in the real world. But generally speaking, it's a conceptual tool. And so it can apply to every problem. So if there are problems that we are worried about, then we should be aggressive on AI. And the day we start hearing, hey, look, these labs are struggling to scale up intelligence, then we should worry. But until we hit that day, we should be dumping more money into it because who knows how smart this shit can get. This shit might get like who knows? It might be able to say, hey, look, this is why everybody got cancer. It's because of this one ingredient. Y'all didn't notice that. Y'all ain't noticed that one ingredient. It might say, hey, look, black people, hey, look, change this one thing. And everybody will be wealthy. Y'all have a specific genetic trait. I'm just throwing out these random things that it may discover that may sound crazy, but based on the patterns, based on the data, based on all these things, it might look at the health. Hey, did you guys notice that if you smoke at 21, at this outcome, it might come up with things, but that requires such these huge computers that and you know this is true because Elon and Anthropic and Dario they're talking about these space centers. That tells you how much intelligence they believe is going to be needed. But it's also kind of smart because it allows them to get away from that attitude of we got to build it on the ground, which is obviously running into roadblocks.
Yeah. I mean, that is even freaking crazy to be like, bet if y'all are going to block our projects or even stop them completely,
Right. Yeah.
we just going to put them in space.
Bro,
That's crazy. That's why people need to go buy when SpaceX drops.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Bro,
Yeah,
everything going to space, bro.
You gotta at least put a little bit of money. You got
not a little bit.
Yeah.
You gotta get in.
I agree. That's one company you don't want to miss out on. That's an obvious bet. So check this out though. I'm just saying though, if you see what Elon, so you just think they just full of shit. Y'all just think that. I'm just saying, man, this is gonna be more useful than people think, man. This is gonna be more useful. Everyday people are gonna be 10 times smarter, maybe even 100 times smarter. Everyday people ain't gonna look like everyday people right now. Actually, in fact, the everyday person is a lot smarter with a smartphone. The everyday person don't look like the everyday person 15 years ago. You think people dumb now? Come on. People were saying all types of shit back, bro. When we was growing up, people were saying all types of shit that wasn't true. They were saying all types of shit that couldn't be verified. They was doing we take stuff for granted so quickly. So we don't even see, and because we take it for granted, we can't see fully where it's gonna go. And this is just my take. I know, but here's the thing. I'm not trying to say that people are not justified in their fear. They are justified in their fear. They are justified because how it's being presented to them, what people are saying, what voices are out there. You could easily see the negative downsides of it. Like you could see all that. You could see all that. So it doesn't surprise me one bit. I'm just simply saying that, well, duh. If you are sitting around thinking about whether or not to build gas cars with all the information that we know, maybe we wouldn't have done it. Maybe we wouldn't have made cigarettes if we knew that millions and millions of people would have got lung cancer. Maybe there's a lot of things we may not have done. Hopefully, and I believe that with this particular technology, it'll lean more on the positive side. That's what I think. I think it'll lean more on the positive side. There will be negatives to it. You can't avoid it. There'll be bad things that happen. There's gonna be things we don't see. But overall, I think the momentum is going to push us forward towards a future that's hard to see today. And that's really where I stand on that. I can't, honestly, bro, the thing is, I can't convince anybody. Like, all I know is that for me, I'm using it in a lot of interesting ways. And I'm just using it in some crazy ways. In some crazy ways.
How are you using it? What's one crazy way you're using it?
Let's see, man. I gotta be, see, that's the thing. I guess I gatekeep a little bit. I gatekeep a little bit. Okay, let me say a relatable one, like for young men and men around the world or whatever. So this is a relatable one. Uh, Dating apps. So I don't use it to like talk to women. I don't need it to do that. I could do that piece, right? But within 1 hour, I was able to make a program on Codex within 1 hour, maybe even less. And I was able to acquire not, and you know what? Tinder and Bumble and all that, that's cool. But let's talk about Hinge, what I was able to do on Hinge. I was able to acquire a high level, a high level of options, a high level of options in a very short period of time. and, 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 and that puts me in a good position, right? That puts me not. So here's the thing. I got overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I can't. I was so overwhelmed. I told my mom, I was like, I'm overwhelmed. This is too much. You know what I'm saying? I don't even understand how these young women handle it. This too much. This, and yeah, I had great results before that, but it's not about whether or not I needed it or not. It's about, hey, I wanted more. It's no different with money, right? Yeah, I got $300,000 in the bank account. Like, I want $1 million. So it's no different. So that's one piece. That's one thing, and that's a very practical thing. And I use young men. I use men for that one because we know how much time men spend, and I'm not gonna spend a lot of time doing that. I ain't gonna spend a lot of time trying to get all like what y'all think I'm gonna be swiping all day? What y'all think I'm about to? That's what y'all think I'm gonna spend my valuable time doing? Come on, guys. Come on, guys. Come on, guys. And that's just one thing. So, I mean, there's many ways. I just don't see how people don't see it. It's the calculator for life. It's the calculator for life. I don't think y'all put in enough context into AI. What y'all scared of? Like I seen the Chat GPT finance product go out, right? And you know what?
Yeah. Is it live?
You know what? I'm gonna say this. This is past my bedtime, so I'm doing everybody a favor for listening. I'm doing everybody a favor. This is past my bedtime, so I'm gonna say like this, or it's getting close to it. I'll put like this. Chat, yeah, it's out, and I'm using it. You already know I'm on it. I'm on it immediately. I was gonna get the Perplexity one, but it just was out of the way. So ChatGPT just came so fast that I didn't need to go to Perplexity. So I seen people on Twitter, cybersecurity experts, like, don't connect your bank accounts. Don't connect this. Don't do this. Don't share your account. Don't do that. You can get hacked. This will happen. These things will happen to you. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, one, I'm sorry, but y'all got $2,000 in your bank account. So I don't think y'all need to worry about getting hacked. So that's one. That's one. But then I'll say two, y'all are not familiar with the platform called Plaid. Plaid has been out for nearly a decade. It is a secure financial API or platform that connects bank accounts to apps. You've likely already used it before.
You 100% have used it before.
You've probably already used it before without even recognizing it, because it just goes into the flow of a lot of these different apps. And third, people are going to try to convince you that there's a big threat that you need to avoid. And all that's going to happen is that people are going to race ahead of you and they're going to get the benefits. They're going to outcompete you. And in the end, that person that told you, or those people that told you to not use the technology, they'll be nowhere to be found. In fact, you might even see them using it. And then you'll be the only one sitting around feeling dumb that you saw it but didn't take advantage of it. And I say that about multiple things. Now, use your discernment. Use your discernment. I'm not saying don't do that. But what I am saying is don't miss your golden opportunity. Don't miss your golden opportunity. You might be able to use AI to completely fix your credit. You might be able to use AI to completely come up with a good financial plan based on your real dollars in your account. You might be able to come up with a real budget based on what you have been spending. You might be able to see, transactions and whatnot that you have not noticed easily, quickly, just by talking to it. It's basically like having a financial advisor. Apply that to health. You can upload your health documents for all these different doctors. It's like having a private doctor that's looking at your information, et cetera, et cetera. I don't see how people don't see all this stuff. It's no different than there's gonna be therapist coaches or coaches for all types of stuff. Therapy. You have all different contexts about different things in your relationships or your different relationships or whatever, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
Your messages. Things will hook up to your messages. I'm already seeing young people copying and pasting their messages from iMessage, from WhatsApp, etc. I've done it before. This is come on, guys. Come on, guys. Don't get in your own way is what I'm basically saying. I'm just saying don't get in your own way. I understand. That's the thing about it. I understand because I remember when I first saw the power of AI, and I think it was a year and a half ago, or about a year and a half ago, and my heart started racing. All of a sudden, like I just remember I had a thought, an idea, and my heart I started getting scared. And then it's funny. Actually, I started thinking about it, and I said I'm scared because I see the opportunity, but I don't know what to do. You know what I'm saying? I'm worried that I'm gonna make a mistake, and so that's why I'm scared. But but why would your brain even get excited about anything if there was no opportunity there? So
I ain't gonna lie.
man,
That's yeah. That last piece is people really. I really hope listeners take that to heart, bro.
I hope so. I hope so. I hope so. 'Cause I went back. I went past my bedtime for that. So look,
Yeah.
y'all, we gotta close out. But look, I know I'm not, and also I already know I'm not going to be the most liked person on this topic. I know I'm not going to be the most empathetic person, or not seeming like the most empathetic person on this topic, and I hate that. But I also see it as I hope that by telling the truth and speaking the truth, that whether it's coming across right, the tone is right, or whatever, that it will hit people right or wrong, and hopefully, they see the power of it, and they hop on this wave, that will change their life, and because it changes their life, it will change everybody else's life around them. So that's what I'm hoping. So
We shall see, bro. We shall see. But no, this was good, man. This was good.
yeah, yeah. How do we? Let's see.
Oh,